let's get right into it. Today, we're tackling what is probably the single biggest problem in trading: execution. Look, you can forget about finding some perfect strategy. The real secret, the thing that actually moves the needle, is flawlessly executing the strategy you already have. By the end of this, we're going to completely shift your focus away from just looking at profits and losses and onto the one thing you can actually control: your process. Now, really let this sink in for a second. We're all conditioned to chase wins, right? But what if a win is actually teaching you the absolute worst lesson? I mean, imagine you break your rules. You chase a price, you panic and move your stop, and you happen to make money. You haven't learned a thing. In fact, you've just rewarded a terrible habit. That right there is a dangerous accident, and it's exactly what keeps so many traders spinning their wheels. And that leads us straight into what I call the execution trap. You know what I'm talking about. It's that massive, frustrating gap between knowing exactly what you should do and what you actually do when your real money is on the line and the charts are moving. You've got a plan, you've got the rules, but in that moment, something else just takes over. This is where we need a complete mental reset. Most traders, deep down, think their job is to be some kind of market psychic, right? To predict what's going to happen next, but that's just a myth. The reality, your job is to be a master of execution. It's not about being right or wrong about the future. It's about following your rules with absolute discipline. Your only job is to stick to the plan. Period. So how do we escape this trap? Well, the solution isn't another fancy indicator or a new strategy. It starts right up here in your mind. It's all about building a new identity, a mental framework that is specifically designed for discipline. And this is the identity you need to step into. From now on, you are not just someone who trades. You are a systematic operator. See, an operator doesn't guess. They don't trade based on feelings. They follow a precise, predefined procedure. They execute a tested system. And when you truly start to see yourself this way, your actions will naturally begin to fall in line. This really gets to the heart of the operator mindset. Think of your strategy as a finely tuned probability machine. It has a statistical edge that's designed to pay out over hundreds of trades. Now, every single time you interfere with it, every time you think you know better or you get a gut feeling, you're literally throwing a wrench in the gears. You're sabotaging the very math that's supposed to make you money. So, these are the mental models you've got to burn into your brain. First, and this is huge, you have to judge your execution, not the outcome. A perfectly executed trade that loses money is a massive win for your process. Second, you have to stop trying to get rid of fear and FOMO. They're never going away. The real skill is learning to execute in spite of those feelings, not waiting for them to magically disappear. Okay, so once we get the mindset right, we need to build an external environment that practically forces us to be consistent. We need to set things up to make it as hard as possible to break our own rules. I love this analogy. Think about it. The machine gunner just sprays bullets everywhere, right? They're getting emotional, taking low probability shots, just hoping something hits. The sniper, on the other hand, waits. They're patient. They take far fewer shots, but they're all high-quality setups that perfectly match their plan. This one shift in approach drastically reduces temptation and boosts your execution. And here is the actual tool that turns you into that sniper. It's a physical pre-trade execution checklist. Literally print this out or write it on a sticky note and tape it to your monitor. Before you even think about placing a trade, you have to be able to go down the list and check every single box. No exceptions. This is not a suggestion. It's a non-negotiable procedure that can eliminate the vast majority of your emotional mistakes before they even happen. All right, let's make this all really concrete. We've talked about the mindset and the structure. Now let's see how this all comes together in a real, simple trading system. We'll use a framework called regime logic to walk through it. So regime logic is just a super simple way to classify what the market is doing right now. It uses two lines on your chart, exponential moving averages, or EMAs. Just think of them as fast-reacting, smoothed-out price lines. And by seeing how a fast line and a slow line relate to each other, we can answer one simple question. Is the market trending, or is it in a range? And that answer tells us exactly which rules we're allowed to play by. Here's how simple it is. In a bull regime, the faster line is above the slower one, and they're both pointing up. The system tells us, okay, the path of least resistance is up. In a bear regime, it's the exact opposite. The lines are pointing down, and the path of least resistance is down. It's visual, it's clear, and there's no room for guessing. And based on which regime you're in, the rules for execution are ruthlessly simple. If you're in a bull regime, you are only allowed to look for long trades by buying the highs of bullish candles, period. In a bear regime, you're only allowed to look for shorts, and you use stop orders to get in, which automates the entry and helps you avoid hesitating or chasing a moving price. Now, this is the system's built-in safety switch. When those EMA lines are separate and sloping nicely, the trend engine is on. You execute the rules we just talked about. But when the lines get flat and all tangled up with each other, the engine switches off. Your job is to stand aside. This simple filter prevents you from trying to use a trend-following strategy in a choppy, sideways market where it's almost guaranteed to fail. Okay, this brings us to the final piece of the puzzle. And honestly, it might be the most important shift you'll ever make. We need to completely change how you measure success as a trader. So I want you to ask yourself this right now and be honest. How do you really know if you're making progress? At the end of the week, what's the very first number you look at to decide if you did a good job? Well, I can tell you what it shouldn't be. It is absolutely not your win rate. A high win rate can be one of the most misleading stats in trading. It means nothing if your losses are huge. It's just a vanity metric. And believe it or not, it's not even your profit and loss. Your P&L is just an outcome. It's a result. You don't control it directly, and focusing on it just sends you on an emotional roller coaster that leads to terrible decisions. So here it is. Your new number one, all-important metric is your execution score. That's it. At the end of the day, you ask one question. What percentage of my trades followed my plan to the letter? Your new goal isn't to make a certain amount of money. Your goal is to hit 80 to 90% compliance with your own rules. I promise you, if you get that right, the profits will eventually take care of themselves. So, it really all comes down to these core ideas. Your job is not to predict, it's to execute. You have to remember that a systematic structure, over the long run, will always outperform your gut feeling or your intuition. And I'll leave you with this last thought. Don't try to be perfect tomorrow. That's overwhelming. Just pick one thing. What is the one single rule from your plan, from your checklist, that you will commit to executing with 100%